My colleague Andrew Clennell was at the press club for the lunch today, Andrew, and you drew on a little bit of political history in your question to the Prime Minister.
See.
We've got an issue with Andrew. Andrew, can you hear me? No, we've got a problem.
Kieran, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just asking you about your question to the Prime Minister. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It's not great, but maybe I just need to get my hearing checked, let's face it. No, look, it was kind of interesting, wasn't it? I've got to say the inspiration for that, as you would have heard, came from Malcolm Fraser. They reckon that was his finest performance of the 1983 election, I recall at the time, and it ended up being the Medicare election. Labor had Medibank, that's the irony of it. Fraser got rid of that. Hawke introduced Medicare. But he just came out strong and called out what he said was bullshit from the press gallery. Excuse my language, I'm quoting him. And I just thought it was an opportunity, given this is kind of a historical setting in a sense, to use that line back on the PM, because I do think there's been a lot in this campaign which has been in the colloquial term BS. And, you know, I guess Anthony Albanese is getting his revenge from last time when, you know, they pointed out to him he was against boat turnbacks and said asylum seekers are becoming here all the time. Now he's saying Peter Dutton's going to abolish Medicare. Well, you know, I had a mate's son come home the other day and say to my mate, is Peter Dutton going to abolish Medicare? You see these social media ads, that's what it looks like. He's matching the bulk billing promise. And so I guess I explored that with him. And there was when you line it up, Kieran, there's just a lot of things that the PM promised at the last election he didn't deliver on. And I was thinking about it yesterday, and I thought, gee, this is a good question. I'll list all these one by one. And the question comes from that, I guess, how can you trust him now on some of the things he's saying, and particularly around the opposition? So let's play that Malcolm Fraser exchange back in 1983 first.
Have you finished the question?
I just want to get a straight answer.
It's perfectly plain that the Australian Labor Party is going out after the financial institutions to fund its programs in a massive scale. $4,000 billion of additional funding. And if you can't oh, well, that's a good bipartisan approach. Bullshit comes from the press gallery.
All right, well, here's my exchange with the PM today. It could be said there's been a fair amount of BS in this campaign and also before the last election.
You know, we're in, you know, like it's the middle of the day, so kids are watching.
It was when Malcolm Fraser addressed the press club too. Before the last election, you said power bills would reduce. They didn't. You said you wouldn't alter the tax cuts. You did. You said you wouldn't change super. You're trying. You said we'd have cheaper mortgages. We don't. You said on election night you'd commit to the Uluru Statement in full. You haven't. And you said when you messed up you would admit fault. Now you say Peter Dutton is seeking to Americanise the health system. He's promising to match your bulk billing funding. Some of your ads basically say he's going to abolish Medicare. You say his nuclear plan will be funded by cuts. Your renewable subsidies and rewiring the nation aren't paid for by cuts.
You might want to come up here, Andrew. And
my question is, why do you have to exaggerate in this campaign? Why can't you win this election by telling the truth?
We are absolutely telling Australians, as Peter Dutton did, when asked about Medicare, he said the reason why he tried to abolish bulk billing and introduce a GP tax every time people visited the doctor was he wanted it to be sustainable. He billed the cat. That's still his view.
So you know, and when abolish Medicare,
and when he tried to abolish bulk billing, he tried, and then he tried also to introduce a tax, a payment, every time people visited a hospital. This is a matter of record. And Peter Dutton said that if we want to look at future performance, look at past performance. Look at past performance. What I did on income taxes was to come here, front up, say I have changed our position. I fronted up, I had the argument, I won the argument, and they voted for it.
So, Kieran, maybe round two of that tomorrow, because I believe I'm interviewing Anthony Albanese tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to that. But what what I have also found out here from Steve Lewis, who we both know, former journalist of Southern Repute, who's on the Press Club board and has been for years, there's only been about one time the Prime Minister hasn't shown up here in this final week. It's often seen as a key moment. That was Scott Morrison at the 2022 election. Obviously, things didn't go so well for him. The others, there have been opposition leaders who didn't show up, and they were Bill Shorten, John Hewson and one other. So pretty much, you know, it's just coincidence, sure, but I guess if you're not going that well, you don't necessarily show up. I personally think Peter Dutton should have shown up. Now, his people and coalition strategists say, well, you get more done on the road, this is too beltway. But I also think there's an opportunity here, as the Prime Minister did, to use a bit of humour, to connect a bit more with people, and to basically really assail your opponent. And I think it's significant that when Anthony Albanese was strongest today, Kieran, he was saying all the stump speech stuff. We've heard it all before. When he was strongest was when he was attacking Peter Dutton, particularly in his speech. And it says a lot about this contest, which is kind of along the lines of, I'm not that great, but look at the other bloke, he's heaps worse. They say that, and you know, we know Albanese's ahead in the polls. We know it's not over yet. They say oppositions don't win elections, but they sure can lose them, Kieran.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, particularly when you've got the microphone for half an hour, the national audience in terms of not just those watching at lunchtime, but the media, the focus is all on you for that period and your message. I tend to agree with you, Andrew, on that. There's more to gain than to lose. Just to pick up on something you mentioned there, though, and I want to go back to what you found on the doors in Brisbane, the home city of Peter Dutton. And we saw it. I received leaflets from those in Brisbane when I was there for the debate, and that is that they're using Peter Dutton as a negative in the advertising. So it's not just, you know, the scare campaign. It is, of course, that. You're right. You're 100% right about that. But it's also about trying to cast Dutton as the negative, as the villain, and they've got something to work with because there is a bit of a negative view when it comes to him, even in his home city of Brisbane, Andrew.
Yeah, that's right, particularly amongst women. And you might actually find big swings to the Liberals in the outer suburbs in seats like Hawke in Melbourne, but no ground in places like Brisbane where Trevor Evans is trying to win, and Parramatta and seats like that. But they had the fortune, if you like, the Labor Party of Donald Trump and the comparison. And their strategists couldn't really believe. I don't think Anthony Albanese could believe there were odd occasions during this campaign when Dutton leant into the Trump narrative a bit, you know. He did that interview with me where he said, I'll have a fight with Donald Trump, which was trying to push away from that. But then it was almost like, it's almost been like there's been two voices in his head, because as I said at that time, Kieran, he needs people who hate Trump to vote for him, but he needs people who love Trump to vote for him. And it's the perfect wedge. It's the sort of wedge we've seen John Howard do to the Labor Party in the past on issues like asylum seekers, those on the left who are sympathetic to asylum seekers, and those on the right, in the working class, socially right, who you know, just didn't want any boat people near Australia. This Trump thing has become that sort of wedge for Peter Dutton, and it's quite unfortunate timing for him. But they think, like Jacinta Price, the Doge ministry, they've got enough to hit him with, enough comparisons. And I think it has hurt the Dutton campaign, as obviously did the work from home thing. So once again, there wasn't anything that inspirational, let's face it, in that speech from Anthony Albanese. But when he came onto the subject of Peter Dutton, that's where he kind of came alive and was able to score a few points. And, you know, that doesn't say a lot, I guess, for the nation's future, to be frank. But at the end of the day, the way polls are going, unless there's a swing back late, which can happen because people think Albo's got it too easy, it shows the opposition aren't quite ready yet. And I think that Australians have come to that conclusion. They won't vote for Anthony Albanese with any enthusiasm, but if he gets re-elected, potentially with a small minority position, it will be because they were not that thrilled with the other guy. And I would also say in relation to that, Kieran, what you found and what I found, I reckon if we went out 3 months ago, we'd get just as much bagging of Albanese. The Labor Party successfully through this campaign has been able to push dislike of an individual in Albanese into dislike of Peter Dutton.
Indeed. Andrew, I look forward to seeing that interview tomorrow with the Prime Minister, and we'll talk after that, I hope. Andrew Clennell, appreciate it as always.